Hi guys, so welcome back sa ating YouTube channel. So ito na ating lesson 7 para sa ating mathematical logic. So the topic is all about propositional forms, location, and kinds of propositional forms. Okay, so before that, meron muna akong babalikan about sa ating discussion last time. So let's have definition number 7. So we have the inverse, converse, and contrapositive of P implies Q of an implication. So, implication, let's say P implies Q. So, again, kung Q implies P, pasok pa rin tong logic na to. So, again, consider P and Q. So, una is yung ating converse. Okay? So, ano ang converse ng P implies Q? Ang converse ng P implies Q is simply Q implies P. Pinagbaliktad. So again, ito yung kino-consider natin. So ano converse ng Q implies P? Ang converse ng Q implies P is P implies Q. So depende yan sa pinag-uusapan. Okay, so lagyan na, ang converse ng Q implies, ng P implies Q is Q implies P. So next is inverse. Okay, so ang inverse naman is inanigate ko yung premise. So ito pa rin yung basis Ang inverse ng P implies Q is not P implies not Q. Okay, so inanigate ko yung premise at yung conclusion. So last is contrapositive. Contrapositive. So, ang gagawin naman ng contrapositive is pinagsamang converse and inverse. Anong gagawin? Ito yung basis, yung P implies Q. Pagbabalik rin ko siya, but yung Q magiging not Q implies not P. Okay, so ganun siya kasimple. So, ngayon, example tayo, no? So, example, ibahin ko lang. So, example, so let's say, meron akong not A implies B. Okay, so ano yung converse niya? So, for the converse, pagpapalitin ko lang sila. So, again, that is B implies not Q. Not A rather. Next is inverse. Inverse is, inanigate ko yung premise tapos yung conclusion. Ano negation not A? Negation ng not A is A. Negation ng not ng B is not B. Okay, next is C plus or contrapositive. So, ito ay pagbabalik ta rin, no? Yung B magiging not B. Magiging not B implies yung A na negate, that is A. Okay, so again, tandaan mo yung idea ng converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So, again, example tayo dito. So, another thing din, no? So, kung yung P implies Q is 1, kunyari yung truth value ng P implies Q is 1, yung Q implies P, yung inverse niya, tapos yung contrapositive, hindi nangangulugan lahat sila 1. Okay, hindi rin nangangulugan na nag-i-inverse sila sa isa't isa. Now, for example, kung ito ay 1, magiging 1 din to. Hindi ganun yan. Kung ito ay 0, for example, kung ito ay 0, magiging 0, magiging 1 naman to. Magiging 1 to, magiging 1 to. Hindi rin ganun. Okay, so depende yan sa thought, or depende talaga sa truth value ng mga bawat proposition. Hindi lang nung as a whole. Okay, so now, let's have an example. So, given the statement below, so state the inverse, converse, and contrapositive. So sabi, if today is Christmas Day, then today is holiday. So alam natin na ito ay P implies Q. So ito yung ating P. Ito yung comma, so ito yung ating Q. So if P, then Q. Okay, so now kunin natin yung converse niya. So, paano sa converse? Sa converse is, pagpabalik ta rin lang. So, mangyari, if today is holiday, kasi ganun yung nangyari. If today is holiday, then today is Christmas. Okay, next is inverse. Sa inverse is something na ito yung basis. Inanigate mo lang yung P and Q. No? So this is if today is not Christmas, if today is not Christmas, then today is not holiday. Tama. If today is not holiday. So, yan ang basis ko yung nasa taas. Next is contrapositive or C+. So, for C+, that is pagbabalik ta rin din ina-negate, no? So, if today is not holiday, then today is not Christmas. So, if today is not holiday, then today is not Christmas. Okay, so ngayon check natin dito yung truth value. No, so if today is Christmas, then today is holiday. Ano truth value niyan? So sinabi if today is Christmas, that is 1. So again, if today is Christmas, then today is holiday. So that is 1. So assume this is 1. Okay, so now if today is holiday, then today is Christmas. Tanong, is it true or false? This is false kasi hindi lahat ng holiday is Christmas. Okay na, if today is not Christmas, then today is not holiday. That is also false. Bakit? Hindi porket hindi Christmas ngayon, hindi pwede mag-holiday. So what if tumama ng August 30? Okay, so what if tumama ng November 1? So that is a regular holiday. Okay, or December 8 or something like that. So lastly, if today is a holiday, today is not holiday rather. Today is not holiday, then today is not Christmas. So if today is not holiday, kung di daw holiday ngayon, then hindi siya Christmas. This is true. Bakit? Kasi nga, kung hindi holiday, syempre ang Christmas day is holiday. Okay, so error tayo dyan. So tandaan mo, hindi tayo nag-base sa value. Kasi hindi natin totally alam yung value ng P and Q. Alam natin yung value ng buo. So in-assume natin na siya yung 1. So hindi alam natin na maraming possible value yan eh. Pwedeng 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. Para lang mag-1 yan. Okay, so ganun mag inverse, converse, and contra positive. Okay, so next is the propositional form. So what is a propositional form? So a propositional form is an expression involving propositions and logical operator or operators. Okay, so again, dito papasok din yung idea ng grouping symbols natin. So yung parenthesis, bracket, and yung tawag dito, yung curly braces or curly bracket, something na ganoon. Okay, so sa math ganoon eh. So hindi mo pwedeng lagi sabihin na, sa math pwede mo naman sabihin 1 plus 1 plus 2. Tama, pero ang hirap isipin yung 1 plus 2 times 1 divided by 3 minus 4. Hindi mo siya basta-basta masasolve nang walang grouping symbol. Okay? So, same lang din dito sa proposition. So, kunyari binigyan ka ng ganito, P implies Q implies R, let's say tatlong proposition. Dalawa kasi ibig sabihin nito. Yung unang case na pwede ibig sabihin, this is P implies Q implies R. Yung pangalawa is P implies Q implies R. Okay, so dalawa ibig sabihin. So kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na grouping symbol kahit papaano. So lagyan mo ng grouping symbol in order for us to determine ano yung dapat nating gawin. Pero before that, syempre, kailangan natin malaman muna anong klase, ano ba ang propositional form. Again, a propositional form is an expression involving propositions, so with S, so meaning hindi lang yan nag-iisa, and with logical operator. Okay, at lagi mo tatandaan, the number of logical operator must be n-1. Kung ilan yung proposition, kunyari 5 yung proposition, dapat 4 lang yung logical operators. Okay, kaya again kung 5 yung proposition, kunyari A, B, C, D, E, dapat 4 lang yung logical operator natin. Okay, so pwedeng maulit and, or pwedeng may implies, if and only, pwede yung mga maulit. Pero dapat lagi siyang mas mababa. Kasi nakakita ka na ba ng 1 plus 1 plus? Okay, 2 minus, 2 minus. So, walang ganon. So, ganon din dito. Walang P implies, Q implies. Walang ganon. So, dapat P implies Q implies R. So, kung napansin mo, bilangin mo, 1, 2, 3, dalawa lang, tatlo yung proposition, dalawa lang yung logical operators. Then, ito yung mas maganda, no? Lagyan mo ng grouping symbol. So, dapat accompanied din by grouping symbol. So, ito yung mga unang example ng PF. Okay, so sa example, unang is si P and Q. This is a PF. Kasi dalawang proposition, isang logical operator. Si P or Q, si P implies Q, and si P if and only if Q. Pero yung not PF natin, syempre si not P, si P, si AE, si B. Basta sinabi yung proposition. Okay, proposition sila pero not a propositional form. Bakit? Wala silang logical operator. So the word and. So yun yung essence, no? And. So sabi kong or, so ibig sabihin pesa pa. Kasi sinabing involving propositions or logical operators, pwede natin sila consider as propositional form. But since and yung word, para masabi mong true yan or one, dapat parehas silang nag-i-exist. Okay, so yun yung isang example. Ito yung basic example. So another basic example natin, ito yung one, no? So another example natin is, for example, we have P and Q, and P implies Q, tapos lagyan pa natin ng bracketing dito, implies R. So that is a propositional form. Why? Ilan yung proposition? Ang proposition natin, again, yung distinct proposition natin is ang distinct proposition natin is ilan? That is 1, 2, 3. So, ilan yung logical operators na nakikita nyo? Dalawa. Okay, so, and implies. Okay, another thing din is something na, ganito rin, kunyari bilang, hindi pala distinct involving proposition. Bilangin mo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yan. So, hindi usapang distinct to, involving proposition. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yung proposition. Ilan yung logical operators? 1, 2, 3, 4. Tama? In this case. Okay, again, hindi kasi distinct tong P na to sa P, tas yung Q na yan. So, pero, kung ilan yung proposition, bilangin mo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 proposition, ilan yung logical operator? 1, 2, 3, 4. So, tama, sinusunod na idea. So, tanong, PF ba siya? Yes, PF yan. Okay, propositional form yan. So, ganun yung idea niya, ha? Dan. So, baka kasi dumating ka doon sa sabi kong distinct. Okay, now, let's have the kinds of logical operators. So, para mas magets natin siya, no? So, ito yung PF part niyan. So, the main operator, it is an operator outside the grouping symbol. So, hindi sa lahat ng oras, outside siya. Hindi sa lahat ng oras, outside lang may grouping symbol. So, tulad nito, ano main operator ng P implies Q? Ay, P and Q. And, ano main operator nito? Or, ano main operator nito? Implies. Ano main operator nito? If and only if. Now, dito naman, yung main operator, ano main operator natin? Sir, ito po, and, hindi. Ang main operator, nag-iisa. Kumbaga, siya yung pinakahuling gagawin mo. Okay, kumbaga, kumbaga dito, isang gagawin ko muna itong dalawa bago dito. Kumbaga, lahat kami dito, ito yung main operator. Ano yung main operator? Itong implies. Dito. So, sa part na to, ang main operator is implies. So, yung main operator is implies. Then, sunod is the sub-operator or operators. So, is or are operator or operators inside the grouping symbol. So, siya naman yung nasa loob. So, tulad nito, may sub-operator ba to? Wala. So, again, by the way, yung main operator, pwedeng sabihin as primary operator. Okay, so dito naman is yung sub-operator yung mga nasa loob. So, in this case, ano yung sub-operator natin? Ang sub-operator natin is and implies. Okay, sub-operators, ito, at ito. Ito yung main operator. Okay, so yun nasa loob ng grouping symbol. So, dito, ito yung tanong, no? Kaya ito yung X na propositional form. Bakit? Dalawa kasi yung pwede natin i-consider na main operator. But sabi nga, it is an operator outside the grouping symbol. So, again, nag-iisa lang ang main operator. Tandaan mo yan. So, meaning, hindi siya PF, dapat ganito mo siya way isulat. Okay, so now, ano yung sub-operator nito? And yung sub-operator or and implies. Okay, so sana clear tayo dyan sa propositional form. So, napakasimple lang naman ng definition niya. So, kung lalagyan natin siya ng konting solution or solving niya. Okay, now, let's move on dun sa ating next topic, which is the kinds of propositional form. So, again, yung propositional form, gato yung logic Yung P, meron siyang truth value. Yung proposition P natin may truth value which is 1 or 0. Ginawa natin yung dalawa. Let P and Q. So, let P and Q meaning dalawang proposition na merong dalawang value. Ano yung dalawang value? Ang dalawang possible value nila. Ang dalawang possible value is 1 or 0 pa rin. Hindi nagbabago. Okay, the next is nagkaroon sila ng operation. So, nagkaroon ng and, ng conjunction, ng disjunction, ng implication, then if and only if. Ngayon, nagkaroon ng dinamihan. So, what if nagsama-sama sila? Okay, ang tawag doon is propositional form. Ngayon, ito yung idea na sinasabi nila. Yung P, tapos Q, para silang may truth value. Kinonjunct ko, may truth value na lalabas. Okay, kung 1 plus 1, may lalabas na sagot doon, which is 2. So, ganun din dito. P and Q, na may truth value, may lalabas na truth value. Yung P or Q, may lalabas din na truth value. Yung P implies Q, may truth value din. Then yung P if and only if Q, may truth value din. Ngayon, kung buong propositional form siya, automatic may truth value pa rin siya. Okay, ngayon, may special tawag lang siya mula dito. Okay, so let's have the kinds of propositional form. So una, number 1 is the tautology. Again, that is tautology. Is the PF which is always true. So meaning, siya isang buong propositional form sa lahat ng value na ipapalit natin sa P and sa P sa mga proposition sa loob. Kunyari kahit anong substitute mo doon na truth value, kunyari 0, 0, 1, 1, mga ganun something, siya ay always true. So, yung matatawag natin siya na PF. Next is, under PF, under tautology, may dalawang klase. Tautological implication and tautological equivalence. So, bakit ganun? So, ito daw ay PF where the main operator is implication. So, meaning implication ng main operator. And it's a tautology. So, tanong, is this a tautology? Yes, sir. The main operator is implies. Tautological implication na ba agad siya? Hindi pa natin pwede sabihin. Why? Kasi hindi natin alam yung truth value nito. So, pag sinabi kong 1 lagi yan sa lahat ng value, syempre, pwede natin sabihin siyang tautological implication. Pero since hindi natin alam na natin main operator is implication, pero hindi pa natin siya pwede sabihin tautological implication. Also, tautology, hindi rin natin siya pwede sabihin. Next is tautological equivalence. Okay, so tautological equivalence is a PF where the main operator is biconditional. So, whenever biconditional main operator, it is a to, and it also is a tautology, then it is a tautological equivalence, or T. Number 2 is absurdity. So, is the PF which is always false. So, pag lagi naman, so for every value na sinasubstitute natin sa kanya, siya ay nag-false, automatic siya ay tawag dito, absurdity. Okay? So, ano ba maganda example? At kasi may example, mamaya na example. So, I think sa text video na example para mas ma-highlight o mag-gets nyo siya. Okay, then yung last one niya, syempre, is yung contingency. So, contingency is the PF which is neither tautology nor absurdity. So, again, may tatlo tayo, no? So, tautology, absurdity, and contingency. So, tautology is yung PF pag siya ay always false. Pag siya ay always true, that is tautology. Pag siya ay always false, siya ay absurdity. Pag hindi siya true, hindi siya false, or hindi siya tautology, hindi siya absurdity. So, meaning pwedeng 1, pwedeng 0, pwedeng 1, pwedeng 0, yung maging value niya. Therefore, that is a contingency. So, may dalawang klase ulit ng tautology. That is the tautological implication and tautological equivalence. So, tandaan yung mga kinds na yan. Okay, so now, let's move on dito sa ating location of proposition. So, I guess medyo recall ko lang ulit kayo, no? So, meron tayong P and Q. P or Q. P implies Q. P if and only if Q. So, dito, yung P natin, ano yung P? That is first disjunct. First conjunct. First conjunct. Ito yung second. Second conjunct. Okay, ito yung first disjunct. Tama? No, first disjunct. Ito yung second disjunct. Ito yung premise. Ito yung conclusion. Conclusion. Ito yung first proposition. Ito yung second proposition. Okay, so again, pinaalala ko lang. So ngayon, para makumpleto natin ang topic na to, syempre, lagyan natin siya ng kung mag-location, i-locate natin yung mga proposition. So, dito nga, location of propositions in a propositional form. So, ilo-locate natin sila. So, kaya ko to pinakita, kaya ko to sinabi, kasi yan yung magsaserve natin as location. So, ano ba maganda example? Sige natin. So, let's say yun na lang yung kanina example na lang natin na PF. So, let's say meron tayong PF. So, dalian lang natin. So, kunyari P and Q implies or if and only if T. Okay? So, paano natin ilo-locate dyan si P? So, where is P? Okay, so ganito yung titingnan nyo. So, mag-umpisa ka kung nasaan siya. So, again, mag-umpisa ka kung nasaan siya. So, nasaan ba siya? Ayun si P. Ngayon, si P, based dito sa nakikita mo, si P na yan, siya ay part ni P and Q. Tama, again ha, paano natin siya malolocate? Mag-start ka kung nasaan siya. Mag-start ka mismo P, nasaan siya, ano siya, si P. Si P is the first conjunct. Nag-gets idea? Si P yung first conjunct. Kasi sa P and Q, sino siya? Ano siya? Siya yung first conjunct. Okay, so P, so lagay ko lang, no? Is the first conjunct. Then P is the first conjunct of, ngayon, yung P na yan, labas na tayo. So, okay na, nakuha na tayo. So, ito na siya. So, kumbaga, pagdating dito, ito kasi highlight eh. So, dito na lang siguro. So, dito, no? So, P and Q. So, na-highlight na natin siya, nakuha na natin siya. So, P is the first conjunct. Pero, pagdating nun, may mas malaki pa sa kanila. Implies R. Ngayon, ano na siya? Nasaan na siya? P is the first conjunct of the, ano ba tong part na to? Ito ay premise. Kung papansinin mo, ito yung main operator. Ito yung naging main operator sa kanila. Ito na yung premise. So, P is the first conjunct of the premise. Okay, the next is lalabas na natin ulit siya una. So, again, lalabas na natin siya ulit is lalagyan natin itong grouping symbol. This is if and only if T. Ngayon, ano naman na to? So, since ilabas na natin siya as in buo, so again P is the first conjunct para dun sa una, of the premise, kasi premise siya, of the first proposition, kasi first proposition siya dun sa loob, of the first proposition, of the first proposition, of the propositional form. Yan o kasimple. Okay, so again, ulitin ko P is the first conjunct of the premise of the first proposition of the propositional form. So ngayon, gagawin natin. So what is Q? Siyempre si Q is the second conjunct kasi pangalawa siya eh. No, si Q is the second conjunct of the premise of the first proposition of the propositional form. Nag-get yung idea? So siya is the second disjunct, is the second conjunct of the first proposition of the premise rather of the premise of the first proposition of the propositional form. Okay, next is si T. Ano si T? So assuming si R, ano si R? R. So, hindi na conjunct. Ano siya? Conclusion. No? Kasi wala na dun eh. So, siya ay conclusion. R is the conclusion. R is the conclusion of the first conjunct pa rin. First proposition rather. R is the conclusion of the first proposition. First proposition of the propositional form. Okay, so again, ganun lang siya kasimple in-name. So, hanap pa tayo ng ibang pwede natin pag-samplean. Hanap pa ko na pwede. Siguro pwede, hanap tayo dito, no? So, kunyari, P and Q, or let's say R, tapos implies, let's say T implies S. Okay, so we have that kind. Okay, so ngayon, ito yung tatanungin ko sa inyo. So, kunyari gusto kong kunin si locate latency R. Okay, so ulitin ko lang. R, so kung napansin mo, ang operator is OR. So, R is the second disjunct kasi pangalawa siya sa dalawa. R is the second disjunct of the premise kasi implication main. Again, R is the second disjunct rather. R is the second disjunct of the premise of the propositional form. So, lagay ko lang. R is the second disjunct of the premise. Sir, ba't nasabi mong premise agad? Kasi buo na yun. Of the propositional form. Okay, next. Kunin natin si T. So, ano si T? Nasa si T? T is the premise of the conclusion of the propositional form. Ganun kasimple. So, this T is the premise. Okay, T is the premise of the conclusion of the propositional form. Okay, next is si Q. Ano si Q? Q is the second disjunct. Tama again ha. Q is the second disjunct of the first, Q is the second conjunct of the first disjunct of the premise of the propositional form. So, si Q is the second conjunct of the first disjunct of the premise of the propositional form. Okay, so next is, for example, si P. Hindi ko sulat ha. P is the first conjunct of the first disjunct of the premise of the propositional form. Okay, so assuming kinuha ko ngayon si P and Q. Nasaan si P and Q? P and Q is the first disjunct. Kasi siya ni mismo. P and Q is the first disjunct of the premise of the propositional form. So, P and Q is the first disjunct of the premise of the propositional form. Okay? So, ganun kasimple mag-locate. Okay, so makakita pa naman tayo dyan. Okay, mag-practice pa natin yung sarili natin. So, that's all for this video. So, hoping na may natutunan ka. So, the next video is all about the truth table. A-apply na natin lahat na pag-aralan natin.